It always makes us feel good to be able to give somebody else a compliment. Well, our colors feel better when we give them a compliment too. Sometimes when we're working with an image or a scene that has a lot of the same color in it, we could end up using just too much of a single hue and therefore come up with kind of a boring piece. Let me show you a way that you can cure that with complementary colors. Now I have here the color yellow green. This is the Daniel Smith sap green, and I have its complement, which is red violet. This is the Utrecht quinacridone violet. You see on my palette I have them already gradated in a value line. I call it, this is my little invention, the value line, where I like to set up the palette so that it goes from the darkest dark of a color over to the lightest light, so that I can better mix value areas. Now here's the way using a complement within a color can work for you. All right, any value area. Let's take this value area right here. In my language, we would call this deep shadow value. This is a deep shadow value of green. So suppose we have lots of deep shadow value of green here, right like that. Just that. Now, I'm not going to paint an image because we don't have time for that in the quick tip, but just to give you an idea, just talking about color. Now, if I wanted to enhance that and make it more interesting, I could come into the same value area of the red violet and load the brush, same value. Now if it's a different value, it won't work. It'll do other stuff. So it needs to be the same value area. So I can come into the same value of red violet, and you see I can work that into that sap green and make that a lot more interesting. Now we don't want it to turn to red violet, so we could come in and kind of scumble over. Remember the scumbling lesson from the last quick tip? Scumble over that sap green, the red violet a bit. You see, now we have a more interesting color area. Now that's in the dark range, so that might be a little difficult to see. Let me show you how that same principle will work in other value ranges. Let's say we have a middle value area of sap green. We have something in sap green that is a middle value area. And so I'll just pick up some middle value color here. And just kind of sort of throw it on the canvas here because we're not defining anything. Now, a large area of that color, even a large area of that color in 2 or 3 values, is going to be dull and boring. It's not going to feel natural. In fact, if you look out in nature, you'll see lots of areas where you will see the complement reflecting within the color itself. Well, I can go here into the same value of that same value of in red violet, and be sure it's the same value. And don't want to, if you get that too dark or too light, it won't work. And it just takes just a little bit of that and kind of work it in, just a little bit of that into that green, and you see it's already beginning to be a more interesting color. It doesn't even hurt sometimes to allow some of that complement to pop through in a large area like that. It can make it a lot more interesting. I'll show you the same principle in a very light value of the same color. So let's go, we'll just go and get a little bit more color. Let's go right over here into a very, very light of the sap green. And I'll just put it right here. It's very, very bright, very light. And sometimes, you can show something as a sunlit area like that, and it just doesn't feel right unless you have a little bit of that complement just sort of subtly woven into it. So I'll go over here now, the same value area of the red violet. And let's don't want to overdo it, but let's just put some of that in there, a little bit more. And you can just watch. You can just watch as the color becomes more vibrant, which is what the complement actually does. So if you mix it in, it becomes more neutral. You can have the color sitting beside in the same value, and it will cause the color to become vibrant. So that's just one example of taking a yellow-green and using red-violet. You can take any color whatsoever, find its exact complement, but remember both colors should be in the same value area in order for the principle to work. Have fun with that. There's your quick tip.